Welcome to You Matter in Business. Your hosts today are Ariel, me, and Miriam.
Your heart, your brand story, and your success, because you matter in your business.
Welcome back to You Matter in Business. We have Nicole Smith with us again this week. Miriam is here too. Say hi, Miriam.
Hi, everyone.
Say hi to Nicole. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
I'm here again. I love
it. She is a special guest. I've been following her just for a short period of time because I just jumped over to LinkedIn just because I was not overwhelmed, but underwhelmed, I think is a better word for Instagram and some of the other platforms. So anyway, I ended up getting in her circle, and it's just the amount of information, and you are so on point on so many levels when it comes to emotions and handling things. And I just have really enjoyed the things you share on there on the LinkedIn platform. We're going to talk about leadership this particular episode. But one thing I wanted to ask you first is because leadership to me is an interesting word. You lead leadership, but you also guide. So how does a guide versus a leader, what's the difference? There's a nuance there, but I just thought it was an interesting thing.
Good question. I feel that guide is always up front. A guide is always up front, right? When you think about when you go on a tour, you have a guide, the guide's up front. I think in leadership, and I'm very big about this because I ask my client this all the time, I always say, how do you feel about leading from the back? And they go, oh. It's like, I think leadership means from all aspects. You're going to take in all aspects of who you are leading, meaning you're going to take in how to lead them through their motivations, how to lead them through some of their personal stuff, how to lead them through their career, how to lead them through just them as a person. Guide, I feel is just, I'm guiding you just simply towards a thing. Right. So I think leadership is an all-encompassing, if that makes sense. And sometimes you have to lead from the back. Sometimes you have to step in the back. And for people that can't see me, you put your arms out and you just kind of push forward because you know they can. And you're going for the greater goal, whatever that may be. I don't know if that answered your question. That was a good question. I never get asked that.
Well, it's interesting because I'm fascinated by the whole brand story process and having the position of being the coach or the leader or the person who's helping, not the person who's the hero of the story.
Oh, that's a good one right there. Not being the hero. And I think a leader, I always say you are, like you said, coaching, you are empowering, you are inspiring, you're influencing, you're coaching. This is where I said, if you're a leader, and I'm not saying the style of coaching leadership has to be your primary innate type of leadership style, but there are times where you will have to coach. And what coaching does mean is asking questions, right? And so I feel a leader in leadership, you are taking on many different hats depending on who you are in the environment or situation with. Guiding, I just feel like I'm just saying, okay, you want to get to point B? Come on, let's go. And I'm just kind of showing you the way. Versus a leader means sometimes we may not even know the way, but let's do it together. Let's find the path together. So I think, in short, if that helps answer your question, like I said, Ariel, oh my God.
That is a cool perspective.
You stopped me right in the beginning.
Sorry. I mean, you have a really nice perspective on that. So you're leading me down a path of wisdom.
It's like I said, and as I'm leading you, I may be walking in front, I may be walking beside, I may be walking behind you. I feel like guide is always up front. And that's just, if you think of, like I said, like a tour guide, they're up front and following them. And that's it. There's no other aspects of it.
Interesting, because I have a different perspective when it comes to that word, but that's fine.
I would love to hear it.
The beautiful world of perspective, right? Yeah. I think I came to an aha moment about a year ago where I realized that my whole life I have been a guide or a coach, or it's part of being a mother. It's part of being in my religious life, in my spirituality, helping other people overcome emotional issues. That's just been my life.
Mhm.
So I resonated with the guide principle versus but leadership it was either guide or hero, right? Those were the two choices in this analysis.
Right.
So for me, recognizing that part of my personality is being more of the behind. I'm more of the behind leader than the front leader.
Yeah.
Even though I might help you get to the solution, I'm right with you. I'm making sure you don't fall down those stairs, right? As you climb first, rather than climbing and then you fell down and now I have to go back and get you. So
Pick you up. That's the way to pick you up.
yep.
Yeah.
So
But
anyway.
I feel leadership, I think as a leader though, you do have to guide, but I think there's more to leadership than just guiding.
Yeah, and that was nice for me to hear that, because sometimes I have like a negative reaction to the word leader, and I haven't been able to figure out why.
We'll talk
And
later.
this told me what it was. So that was very educating for me personally. And it's more I've always looked at the leader as the one, and this might just be from the white male dominant society that I grew up in. The leader was usually a jerk, to be totally honest.
Right.
And wasn't nice, wasn't kind, wasn't compassionate. So
They weren't taught those things.
no.
You have to understand in leadership, when you think back when somebody got a promotion and now they have a managerial title, they have people that report to them, they usually were promoted because they were good at doing the widgets. They were good at putting up the widgets, doing the task that the employees do, right? So now here they are, a manager, and they're like, okay, what do I do now? And it's like, well, you're managing now the people that do the task. But then it's like leadership encompasses so much more. And we have to understand today, this is where I talk about rehumanizing the workplace. We work with people, and people have feelings, and people bring those feelings and emotions to work. Unfortunately, we don't just pack them up in the trunk of the car and walk into the office. We have emotions. That toddler didn't tie his shoe. You ran around with the shoe in the house. You couldn't get to the daycare on time, missed the school bus. Whatever, maybe you and your spouse got into it in the morning, whatever it may be, you're bringing that to work, right? And so now we're expecting you, Ariel, as this fearless leader to now tend to the people. And you have no idea how. I'm supposed to be compassionate for them. What does that mean? Am I supposed to go up and hug them? We don't. That's a whole other thing about empathy. That's a whole other conversation. It's like how to be human to another human. And
Shouldn't be so hard.
It shouldn't be so hard. Oh my gosh. It's so funny. My dad asked me, he said, there are 15 million books on leadership. There's 20 million podcasts about utopia, leadership, and so forth. But why is it that we're still so bad at it? And I said, because it's people like Ariel, Miriam, us, we're reading those books. We're reading the books. And we're talking about it, but we are not put into those leadership positions. The people that are put into those leadership positions, like you said, are the jerks, the ones that are not listening to the podcast, not reading the books.
They don't care. They have no emotional intelligence in some cases. Anyway. Sorry.
I mean, we can probably just keep going on that tangent.
Yeah. I'm just going to leave that one alone.
Yeah, we'll keep moving here. We'll keep moving.
Okay. So for women in particular, what have you found based on your experience when a woman wants to transition into a leadership role of some sort? What was one of the biggest either blind spots or obstacles that stands in their way to crossing over and making that transition?
Wow, that's a good question. I wish I knew when I was back in the corporate space, because then, wow. I think, and too, I want to say, because I'm Gen X, generationally, it means something different as well. I was taught to be independent and go for it and go for everything that I wanted to go for, but not too much. But just not too much.
Not too
Don't
much.
be, don't be too much. Don't be too much, but go for it, right? And I think just in the workplace, you would see all the men succeeding, and for some reason you felt like you needed to be that, you needed to mimic that behavior, you needed to have those characteristics that you saw those men had to succeed. And I have to say, as a woman, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And this is where I think what worked for me at times, not all the time, is I did sometimes bring that human aspect to the role that I was looking for, or the role that I saw other women looking for. I would say, hey, really invest on what do the people need in that group? Where's the gap? We didn't look at what the gap that was needed at times. We looked at just what we could do, what more money we can bring in, the more engagement numbers and so forth. But we didn't ever dive into the gap that was truly needed. And I think where a lot of the men succeeded was it was a numbers game with them. It was, I can bring in $20 million. I can bring in $50 million. But for women, we had to justify how we could do that. And I feel that sometimes if we look at the gap that is needed, what is missing, I guess, in that next role that we're trying to be in, and focus on how you can bring or how you can fill that gap versus just trying to be numerical and talk about data and numbers all the time. I think that might help a little bit, but also too, understanding what the organization or that role is wanting from you and seeing how you can bring that to the table. I feel like that might have been a long-winded answer, but I'm just trying to think about when I applied for jobs, I was always trying to put a number to it, if that makes sense. I was always trying to say, what are the numbers of the gains that I can bring? And I felt like I was missing sometimes the human aspect of it, or what I could bring in regards to the team and how I can help the team succeed. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So your part of your own journey has taught you the value of self-discovery, which we talked about last week.
Yes. And I was going to bring in emotional intelligence, but I was like, last week we talked about that. It's truly that self-discovery. And this is where I say being authentic in who you are. And this is where I would say sometimes it's like we have to act like a man to get where we want to get into the workplace. And I say, no, stop doing that, because people can see right through that. And so understanding that self-discovery and how can you bring your authentic self, and then defining what that even means, right? Because we're throwing that word authentic around. What does it mean for you to show up comfortably in your skin in the workplace for you? And it could be 100%, right, of yourself. Go ahead, Miriam.
I was going to say that, but it takes a huge amount of confidence to be able to do that, doesn't it? And
It does. It does. And knowing that there are always going to be some pieces of yourself that you're not going to bring to work. Like, I'm not going to bring my Friday night, Saturday night turn up Monday through Thursday. Friday, y'all don't need to see that. But it's still going to have my jovial, fun personality that you're going to see. But and one of the things we talked about last week was that self-sabotaging. We talk ourselves out of being in that C-suite. If you want to be in that C-suite and you can bring it and you meet all the requirements, apply, go for it. If you can be that senior VP, go for it. If you can be in that next role or that next level up, go for it, because all they can say is no. But now here's your responsibility. Ask why no.
Exactly.
Ask for that feedback.
What am I missing? What do I need to learn?
Right. What am I missing?
Mm-hmm.
What did I need to learn? But I always tell, when people come to me asking for a job, that is one question I do ask, is like, what is the gap you're going to fill? What's that gap? Why do they need this position? Number one, but why did the last person leave? You're probably not ever going to know that answer. But now, why do they need to continue this role? And what is the gap they need to have filled? And now I've actually asked that question in interviews as I was more mature growing in the corporate spaces. What is the gap that we're trying to fill in this position?
I never looked at it like that before, but I love that idea. Stop trying to be a carbon copy of the people that are already there. Stop trying to be the same as them. Be different from them, because you bring different strengths. You bring different insight. You bring different experiences. Be yourself. And I love the fact that you can look at that gap and try and, you don't have to change yourself, but be the person that is going to fill that gap. I love that. That makes a team whole, rather than just being a load of robotic
Copies.
people that are all exactly the same. Instead, stand out from the crowd. Be that person that's going to make it different, and look from at a different perspective. I love it. That's great. I love it.
You just summed that up so perfectly, Miriam, where we're afraid to stand out. I've actually heard people say, well, I'm just going to blend in. I don't want to, rock the boat. No, rock the boat. Rock the boat. And that and it's probably going to, Ari, you might ask me another question. Back in my day, I was a disruptor. I literally was called a disruptor. But me at that time was thinking there was a negative connotation to that, right? A disruptor? What do you mean? I just asked a question. I just wanted to ask a question for clarity, right? Now I embrace it. And that's what I feel makes me stand out, is that I am a disruptor. And I will tell that to my potential clients and so forth. I am disruptor. However, what that means is shifting perspectives, changing mindsets, sparking curiosity, maximizing your EQ. And if that is what you mean by disruptor, then yes, that is me. So that's what makes me stand out, and I'll rock the boat. I won't rock it to where it will turn over, but we're going to sway a little bit, because I want you to see that there are different perspectives and different ways of doing things.
Yeah. And your life is so much more richer when you see that and you don't judge it.
Yeah. Don't judge it.
Yeah. So I have a different perspective. Who cares, right? It's not going to ruin my day. But for a lot of people, if you say something different, they're now wounded because you don't agree with them. So, obviously that's a very low EQ level, but
you know what that is? You know what that is? We talk and we listen through filters of hurt. So
yes,
when Ari, you say something to me that I don't agree with, or it's different than what I was thinking, you've hurt. I'm hearing it through a filter of hurt. What do you mean you don't agree with me? And then that little people pleasing thing comes up. Why not you like what I said? Rejection. Oh, I feel rejected. We go into that mode and it's going, no, Ariel just has a different perspective, and it's okay.
It is okay. The world is filled with thousands and thousands of different colored flowers, and it's beautiful that way. I mean, I love certain flowers, but I wouldn't want all flowers to be the same. That just would be boring.
We don't want all food to be the same. We don't want
exactly.
You could take this show on the road and broadcast that everywhere.
Let alone people. I love people are fascinating to me, even cultures and all that fun stuff. So how can women leaders effectively navigate workplace dynamics when they're often judged differently than their male counterparts? It's the whole swimming in the ocean of testosterone.
Would this go along with, how to play with the politics in the workplace? Play with the...
Yeah. Because that is what it is politics.
Yeah. I'm going to say the one line I want to say right here is power. There's power in your voice. And the reason why I say that is because as women, we see things happening in the workplace. We see men being treated different than women. We see it. And everybody that's listening to my voice right now, I can see you nodding your head because you see it. Why don't you ever say anything? And again, it's that fear of, they have put the fear of us that if you say anything, it's going to affect your livelihood, right? If you say anything, they're going to fire me. And then my one question with that is, then why are you there? Well, why are you there? You're not a tree, you can move. Why are you in a place that does not value your voice? Why are you not in a place where people want to listen to you? So as you navigate those waters in the workplace and you see, what is it? You see something, say something. Isn't that what they tell you everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
if you were passed over for a promotion and let's just say Johnny got it, and Johnny may not have all the experience. You don't know all of Johnny's journey, right? You don't know the things he did before he got there. But what's wrong with you going in and saying, I was passed up for this promotion. Congratulations to Johnny. However, do you think you can provide me feedback on why I didn't get the position? On a scale, this is a good one, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel I'm doing in my role today? Because this will help me understand where I'm going, how I'm going to get the next promotion. And they say, oh, you're about an 8. Okay. How can I get to a 10? See, we take the 8 and we go, okay, great. And we move on. No, how can I get to a 10? Because I truly want to move up in my career. I want to move to the next level. I want to know, basically what you're saying is I want to know how Johnny got it and not me.
Mm.
Right? If somebody says, oh,
Much more eloquently.
yeah, much more eloquent than saying, I need to know, right?
Yeah.
But asking questions, using the power of your voice, specifically if you've been passed over time and time again. Now, it's a little harder when you're not hired in a new organization to go back to that organization and say, hey, why wasn't I hired? However, there's nothing wrong with shooting an email or giving a call to the hiring whomever and saying, congratulations to whomever got the position. But for the future, I'd like to know some feedback on why I didn't get the position. It could have been something you said in an interview. It could have been, oh, it was a hard decision, but such and such has a master's degree or has a doctorate, whatever it may be. And you're like, oh, okay, I only have a bachelor's. That's fair. That type of thing. But asking questions, the power of your voice. Stop sitting in meetings and the minute somebody questions you, you withdraw, sit back because you feel like they're questioning your credibility. No, they're questioning for clarity. Lean in even more when they ask you a question. Say, I'm glad you asked that. And now here you are able to show them your expertise and why you said what you said or asked what you asked. And you can always preface it with, from my experience. Men do it all the time. From my experience, this is where I have 30 years of experience. I have said this. I have 3 decades. Sound like an old lady. I have 3 decades of
I
this.
have 4, so
It's right. And use that as a tool, right? It's not to say how old I am. It's just to say, I've been in this game for a while, and this is why you should listen to me. Power in your voice. Use your voice. Speak up. Ask questions. You can even say, for clarity, can I ask a question? Don't say, this may be a dumb question. Drives me crazy when people do that. Just say, for clarity. If you have to preface it with something, for clarity, may I ask another question? So use the power in your voice and asking why. Why not? It's like Simon Sinek says, why? The power of why. Why? Why? The 5 whys. Why? 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 You just keep going until you get down to really the reason why.
I worked in an architectural firm, and it was a very male-dominated industry, still is for the most part. And I'm this young, vivacious, crazy little redhead that didn't have the education that the rest of, I didn't have the 4 years, 6 years. I didn't have the license, but I did all the same work.
Mm-hmm.
And in that male environment, you learn how to swim by staying yourself. So one of the things I would do is I would see a problem on the plans. I knew they were wrong. I knew something was wrong, and I probably knew what was wrong, but I didn't go up to the guy and say, hey, you're wrong.
Right.
That to me is not an approach that works on any level, right? So if you came at it like, hey, can you explain why this is doing this here?
Mm-hmm.
And then you let them look and go, oh, shoot, that doesn't work. And then you become the silent hero.
I love the way you said that because that's I get a lot of questions on, Nicole, what can I say when, right? I love how you said that because you don't want to be told you're wrong, right? So why would you go to somebody else and say, this row E line 66 is wrong?
You spelled this wrong.
Yeah, okay, right. It's, can you explain to me how you came up with this answer? I'm just curious. It's funny you say a typo. Listen, we all make typos. When we used to market, I used to do education services. We had to market our education and so forth. And we would see stuff come across, and it's like, were they writing this in the dark because it had so many typos in it? It's just sending it back and saying, hey, you might want to review it just to make sure it's grammatically correct on all levels. And just leave it at that versus saying, hey, where'd you graduate from high school? I mean, it's just, you just don't want to. The thing is, I'm not about shaming and embarrassing. That is one tactic as a leader I just did not understand, because I've worked with a leader his tool was shame and embarrassment. And I fought back on that so hard. And I'm just not for that. However, I do want to bring things to your attention. So when we all go in and present ourselves in the workplace, we all look good.
Exactly.
We all look
Mm-hmm.
good. And if there's any type of fear, embarrassment, or shaming tactic going on, that's something that needs to be addressed immediately, because no one likes to be embarrassed or made feel shameful in the work that they're doing.
Absolutely. 100%. So your approach emphasizes lasting change in behavior rather than a short, quick fix, which is 100% what you have to do in life. You can go on a short diet and lose weight and gain it back 3 days later. So, or you can just learn how to relive, right? How do I need to move more? How do I need to eat a little more healthy? What do I need to do to change to have a better life? So in your case, what does that journey typically look like for women leaders who work with you?
Who work with me.
Yeah.
I love how you said about the diet and so forth, because how you work, right? How you show up in the workplace is also to a lifestyle. So it's not a quick hit. Oh, I'm going to be good just this week, so I can get somebody to do something for me. That's manipulative, right? So it's like, how can you change your behavior to truly make it your lifestyle? And what that means for me is, how do you want to show up in the workplace? What is the desire that you have? Who do you desire to be in the workplace, right? Whether you're a woman or you're a man. I understand there's more obstacles as a woman. Trust me, I understand there's more obstacles as a woman, but how do you want to show up in the workplace? Now let's make that the lifestyle that you desire, right? There's this thing called life, and in it, there's personal and work, right? So that's your lifestyle. So now your lifestyle is included into the workplace. So when I ask my female clients, how do you want to show up in the workplace? Because sometimes they may say, well, somebody says I'm an angry Black woman, or somebody says I'm a crier and I get whatever I want. No, okay, that's not how you want to show up. What is the lifestyle that you want to have in the workplace? Because good grief, having a less stressful lifestyle, having a less toxic lifestyle in the workplace is what we desire to be. So I ask them those questions, but also to understanding what is their definition of success, right? Because you may not want to be in the C-suite. And that's okay. Ladies, that's okay. If you do not want to get that senior VP role and you like the role that you're in, the level that you're at, great. But I still want you to be amazing at it, right? So what's your definition of success? We go through talking about what are their values, because I have a lot of women that come to me and want to be a certain way in the workplace. And I go, great. What are your values? We go through an exercise, 20, 15, 10, whittle down to 5. Okay. How are you demonstrating those values? Every day, primarily in the workplace. And they can't tell me. And I said, and this is why you're not showing up. This is why you're exhausted. This is why, and we go through the whole list of things. It goes back to what we talked about last week in regards to that self-discovery. How do you want to show up? What is the lifestyle that you want to live, right? So think about it. If you have this lifestyle you have personally, okay, well, you're going to have to adjust this lifestyle in the workplace too, to be able to keep that personal lifestyle, if that makes sense. So how do you want to show up? Your definition of success, your values, what does that look like for you? What are your limiting beliefs? And when they tell me they want to do something in the workplace and they go, but can't, I don't know. Again, going back to the why not? Well, because, and what's funny is they will define this toxic workplace And then you know what my next question is.
Why are you still there?
Why are you still there? Well, and those excuses are like rich. When I say rich, like, oh my God, like I've been there 20 years. I actually had a friend of mine that said she's been in this organization because, oh, they were with me when I was a single mom with young kids and the benefits were good and da 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 da. Her kids are now grown and married and have kids themselves. Why are you still there? Or here's a good one. I just don't feel like redoing my resume. I don't want to go through the whole interview process. This is where I say, hey, if you love it, then here we are. You stay right there. Then I don't want to hear you complaining, and I'm not walking around this mountain with you. So so again, they want to navigate those waters. They want to be able to level up in an organization where there's a lot of internal work that you're going to have to do for yourself, but also too, really answering the question, I'm going back to, what do you want in this specific workplace? How do you want to show up? How do you want to basically live this work life? Because you're there 90,000 hours out of your life. You're there a third of your life. How do you want to be? And if you're being the person right now, whoever you are right now, are they exhausted by the end of the day? Well, then we need to make a shift because you're not showing up as yourself.
Just take a moment for a slight interruption. We wanted to share some exciting news.
Exceptional women professionals often struggle to communicate their expertise. Rediscover, refine, rebrand women's retreats provide a transformative, intimate experience that help clarify your unique identity, so you are self-confident and courageous, stand out in your industry, and enjoy effective marketing.
Join us on one of these retreats. Go to arielfaith.com and choose your date that fits your schedule. Reserve your exclusive spot with a simple deposit, and then enjoy tailored planning tips and details from us to get ready for this inspiring experience. In the meantime, if you can like, share, and comment on this podcast, we'd appreciate the love. Thank you. Now, you talk a lot about workplace.
Mhm.
Do you work with people who are basically self-employed? So they have their own business and they may be the only person in it, or they may have a small team, and those have different dynamics because you have different challenges.
Yes, I do. I primarily work with women that are in a
Corporate.
in any industry, healthcare, finance, medical, all industries, nonprofit, government. I
Okay.
use in those areas. Yes, to answer your question in short, I do work with entrepreneurial women, not a lot, usually because they have a business coach. They have a business coach and they may have a therapist, which that's fine, right? But what they're tackling is that business side, and usually the business coach will tackle like how to manage your team and how to work with your team and how to hire for your team. They get all encompassing. Sometimes it's hard for me to come in there and go, well, how are you leading? Right? Because they're like, I'm leading it all, So usually with that, I'm usually where I hit the entrepreneur female woman is at a panel. I may be at an organization where I'm doing a keynote and they get some nuggets from there as well. They may take some of the assessments or the free assessments that I have. They'll go out there and understand their leadership style and so forth. But then when I find out, they'll go back to their business coach. It's so funny though. I have some women that will tell me, I have a therapist as well. And so, yes, you can have a therapist and a coach. Understanding that a therapist, make sure they understand your past, right? To understand how you're showing up today. I look at how you're showing up today and moving forward. Some of the past for context. But what's funny, they'll tell me, they'll go, Nicole, my therapist said the same thing. Nicole, my therapist said the same thing. So sometimes we overlap rather. But yeah, entrepreneurship women, it's a different energy, a different spirit, different things.
I think you might have just kind of said it, but I think there's a woman who's willing to risk a business has something already.
Yeah.
That when you work for someone else, there's a level of, I call it fake security because it's not really security, but there's a level of comfort with, I know exactly what I'm making every week. I know exactly I'm going to get paid until I can't have this job. And, so all the expectations are there. You know what you have to give, you know what you're going to receive back. So it's a very clear.
Yep.
When you're self-employed, you live in a world of, let's try this. So
it's very spiritual. Being an entrepreneur is very spiritual. Very spiritual. There's a lot of praying during the day, a lot of praying at night. I have to say though, I've learned, me being full-time in my business for the past 5 years. I want to say I've learned more about myself in 5 years than I did in the 26 years in the corporate space. Because that's why I say it's spiritual. It's a true connection to your spirit.
And I can see that because it pushes you in ways that the regular 9 to 5 or it's not 9 to 5 anymore, but that challenges you in different ways. But being self-employed challenges you on a much more personal self-worth. Your self-doubt can completely kill a business if you're self-employed.
Your self-doubt can literally derail 24 hours. I mean, it's just.
Yes. Yeah.
And also, too, being 9 to 5, you can kind of go in and set your speed for the day. It's, you got to wait on marketing to do whatever. Oh, you got to wait on accounting to approve whatever. Oh, another 2 weeks. You got to wait. It's like you just
go with the flow. Yeah.
You go with the flow because you're working with you're cross-functional. When you're an entrepreneur, speed can make or break you. And, there's things I always say, when you have an idea, go with it. Craft it up. I mean, literally like last week, 2 weeks ago, I was like, I'm doing a live on March 6th. I'm doing a webinar on March 11th. It was like, my admin was like, wait, what? Huh?
I'm doing one on the 12th.
Yeah, it's just, you just go, right? Versus the beauty of it is I don't have to ask 15 different departments for their permission to do whatever. But again, I'm doing it myself and I'm creating it from my head to the paper. So it is a different breed. And this is where I tell for the ladies that are listening, for the women that are listening, listen, there are some amazing women in the corporate space. Please, we need you in that corporate space to still be the voice for us in these organizations that, quite frankly, lead the world, right? In regards to decisions that are made for the country, how the dollar is spent. I mean, ladies, we are 20 trillion in this economy alone by ourselves. And that is, because of you and for those who work in that corporate space. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. That is not, quote, the American dream, as they say. But if you do feel that you have something of value that you can share with the world and you solve a problem, you have a solution that will solve a problem, go for it. If you have that entrepreneur zeal, go for it. But do know you are the CEO, you are the mail clerk, you are
the accountant, the web designer, the marketing director.
You are the errand boy, as they call it. You are everything. And you are your lawyer in the very beginning. I wouldn't say that lasts too long. Go get legal resource. But But what I did in my space was when you jump out of the corporate space into entrepreneurship, you're not starting over.
No.
You've gained so much from the corporate world. And I literally, things that come up, I'm just like, oh, I'm a CMO today. Okay. I'm the COO today. It's just but because I've worked in different industries and worked with different people. Even though some places sometimes we're not as great in that space, but there's a lesson in everything if you're paying attention. And I literally was paying attention to everything in the corporate space. And so this is where I say we need all women in all the spaces that they are in. The thing I ask is if you're in whatever space, be the best you can be at it. I remember my dad telling me, hey, if you want to be a garbage person, he said, you be the best garbage person ever out there. He said, you make sure you put the trash cans right back at their driveway.
You smile while you're doing
you
it.
smile, you hang out the truck. He said, you grin and you go be the best that you are. So whatever you are doing, I need you to lead. I need you to show up and lead and just be the best you can be at it. And if you're not able to be your best, you are not a tree. You can move, even though a tree can be broken down. But that's another conversation. But you are not a tree. You are not a tree.
You are not a tree.
Move.
True.
Love it.
Even a tree can be moved. It just takes a little more work.
It can be broken down, but it's going to take a lot of work. But right.
So going back to the workplace, and I know this is a challenge, especially when I grew up with a very, very passive aggressive family. So there wasn't a lot of aggression, but there was a lot of passive aggressive, which is not a good thing. That's the opposite end of aggressive, right? So when I was learning to become more assertive, of course, you sway back and forth because you go that was a little too aggressive. And then you get back and eventually you can walk a tighter line between those two not destructive ends. I'll put it that way.
Oh.
But when you're in the workplace and you are trying to develop an empathetic, you're trying to foster that team environment, but sometimes as women, we get labeled as either end of those spectrums, as either the witch boss or, oh, you're too nice. You let everybody walk over you. So there's this perception that can happen if you are a kind human, if you are a compassionate person. How do you help, or how can you help the leaders in that field cope with that balance, if that's made any sense?
I think so. This is, I'm saying this, stop being nice and focus on being kind. And the difference is nice is you're just telling people what they want to hear, and it's not for their benefit. It's not for their growth. Being kind means that, I am going to make sure I'm intentional with how I say things and how I do things. I'm very intentional about my words and my actions. I'm going to tell you with love about whatever's taking place in the situation. But my primary goal is to tell you so that you grow. We grow, right? Again, going back to the power of your voice, because I've been called aggressive. I will correct somebody. I will say, no, I'm not being aggressive. I'm being assertive, yes, but I'm not being aggressive. So I would appreciate you not using that word to describe what's taking place right now. Because like I said, you can be firm, assertive, and direct. Emotional intelligence is not jumping through the daisies. I want to see how you act when I come around with a machete and chop down the daisies. That's what I want. I want to see that person, right? Because if your daisies are still getting cut down, you can still be kind, right? To me, that's that balance. That's that balance that you're walking. I always say when you're about passive aggressiveness is usually in regards to your action, but it's more in how you communicate, right? So I always ask people, what's your intention? When somebody says something to you and now you're about to respond back, what is your intention? And this was a big lesson for me to learn. If my intention is for us to grow, when I say us, as in you to grow, and I'm going to grow, obviously, because when I say it, I'm going to be so proud of myself. So when I say something, we're going to grow. That's my intention. If my intention is petty, if my intention is to somehow shame you, if my intention is to make you feel bad about it, like, yeah, okay, no, but do whatever, if that's my intent, and then it's not going to go anywhere. That's where, like you said, I'm either on those two ends of the spectrum, aggressive or passive. So to me, for Nicole, being kind is that balance for me, because being kind to me means I'm being very intentional with what I'm going to say, how I'm going to move, and making sure that it's for us to grow and for us to move forward. Because with emotional intelligence, like I said last week, one of the goals is for relationship building. I value this relationship, so I want it to keep moving. And so if your intention is to continue valuing that relationship, well, then now you're going to be smart about how you move forward. Ariel, I don't know how you did it growing up in a passive aggressive household, because that would have drove me crazy.
Well, you don't know any better. You don't even know you're growing up in a passive. You think this is normal.
Right.
No,
right.
and that's the problem with all of us is we grow up in situations that are not normal, they're not okay, and we think they are, and then we think we're not okay.
And that's where I say that emotional blueprint. What is the foundation that has been set for you since childhood? That's now going to determine how you show up. That's why I say, as a coach, I get a little bit of context of your childhood and as far back as you want to go for context. But that now that emotional narrative, what I'm telling myself, public speaking, I'm not going to apply for that because I'm just not good at public speaking. Why? Because my emotional blueprint said when I spoke up, my parents would shut me down, or they said, I talk too much. So that's just where that, understanding where that comes from. I do have to give a disclaimer though to your listeners. In my behavior style, I'm what I call a D. I'm dominant and influential. So it's off of the DISC: dominant, influential, steady, and conscientious. And there's different behavior styles within this measurement. The D is dominant, and my secondary behavior is influential, which means D, I'm very task-oriented, result-driven, brevity, direct, firm. The I is that relationship part. People. D is task, I is people. So I have both of those styles, and the I softens there's only 3% of us in society that are considered a D. So I have learned to know myself and how I can't stand passive aggressiveness. Why? Because I'm direct. But I got to watch my directness because I do value people. And
that's the thing, isn't it? Is that it's not just, you're not the only person in that relationship. In any relationship, you're not the only person. And it's recognizing that you are a dominant person, but you may be dealing with someone that's a complete introvert. And they've also got all those histories behind them as well. So whereas you come at this relationship with all of your baggage and all of your experiences and everything that's formed you as a person, they've got exactly the same as well. And it's that real being able to read the other people as well, isn't it? And that's where I think people excel at leadership, is where they can temper their own behavior, not to manipulate, but to draw out of the other person the best out of them.
Yes.
Because they've read, they know, they can see, they can read, they can see that other person is hurting or is struggling with this situation or has got something desperate that they want to say, and being able to draw that out of them in a way. And that's what leadership's all about for me, is getting the best out of yourself and the best out of everyone else. And that's
so good. That is so good. It's like, because I'm being the best of myself, I'm going to bring out the best in other people. And it goes back to that EQ of self-awareness. I believe I said with that self-awareness, it's also to understanding the impact that you have on other people. So what's your intention? When you are dealing with people, when you are leading people, when you're communicating with people, what is your intention? Because if your intention is, I'm going to be my best today, I'm going to be exemplary, I'm going to be so good, and I'm going to understand how my behavior impacts others. So then you can read it in other people. You catch their body language. Miriam, like you said, you can see that they want to say something. You're like, oh no, let me pause. Do you have anything to say? It's not just about it's not just
You.
about you. I think that's probably the best line in this whole thing. It's not just
Not about you.
it's
And
Not about you.
but there is a difficulty though, isn't there? Because some people go through life doing things with the best intentions, but still, and because you're talking about what is your intention. Some people hit life and they leave a litany of destruction behind them because they've done it with the best intention. So you can do things with the right intention, but actually make a complete muck up of it as well and really hurt people. And I think that's where emotional intelligence comes in as well. It's not all just about, forgive me, but from my perspective, it's not just about having the right intention, but actually it's understanding how
That's
that intention is going to affect other people
Yes.
as well.
Yes. Way to extend on that. So I always say, if we led with good intentions alone, the world would be a better place, right? So to your point, yes. So leading with intention, I know my intentions because my intention is to continue being my best so I can bring out the best in others. And bring out the best in others does not mean leading with fear, shame, embarrassment, ridicule, or anything like that. It's how can I communicate? How can I collaborate? How can I empower this other person to do the same?
I think a
do the-
piece of this, and I don't know if we brought it up, but I think it fits right here, well, for my mind anyway. When you have this level of intelligence, you have self-value. When I have self-value, I see value in others. I see that they may have a good intention, but they didn't know how to execute it in a proper way or in a healthy way, however you want to look at that. So you can look at other people in their failings and be compassionate, kind, and loving and help them get to their next level because you understand that as a human, they are just as valuable as every other human. And that's what you see is people with hearts and value.
I like that. And then also too, a level of intelligence here is when your intentions didn't land right.
That happens.
Being able to step up and say, I apologize.
100%.
That was not at all what I intended. Miriam, how can I support you better so going forward it will not happen again? That is a level of intelligence that, whoo, I mean, my admin, when we first started working together like 5 years ago, when I told her, she'd said something, she corrected me on something. And she goes, I don't want to be. And I said, stop. I said, my apologies. I did not realize, boom, boom, boom. And she said, oh, you're the first leader that I've ever worked with that apologized. Because like I said, I always lead with good intentions, but they just may not land right all the time because I am human. But being able to step up and say, it didn't hit right, it didn't land. Sorry. And how can I support you going forward? And so
It's that getting that level of humility without being a wallflower, isn't it? Without being that person that everyone can walk, a doormat.
Yeah.
But actually recognizing sometimes we do get it wrong because we are human, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. But
It's about understanding and learning and growing, right?
Right.
If you feel like you're done growing, well, this will become very difficult for you. But if you realize that life is beautiful and there's so much to learn and so much to grow, together we grow so much better. So when you embrace that, including the differences of other people, the cultures, the variety, even, when you embrace that and at least allow yourself to understand whatever you can out of that, you see the beauty in it.
right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's it, as we say, as a leader, especially for our women leaders, because we tend to be known for that nurturing characteristic that we naturally have. But do know that when you are leading, yes, there is that business aspect. What's the bottom line? What are the numbers? What are we going to do? How are we going to increase sales? Whatever it may be.
Business is business. Yep.
Very tactical. Business is business. But I just want to say too, if you are leading your people, embracing your leadership style, embracing what motivates them, what empowers them, they're going to follow you to the ends of this earth. You going to ask them to stay late one night, not even bat an eye. They're going to be like, I'm here for you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
If
100%.
you are a leader and no one is following you, you're just taking a walk. You as a leader, you have to have followership. And as a leader, it is okay to follow at times, right? So this is where I say, yes, lean into that maternal side that you feel you have, and don't just become a leader because you're like, I like people. Okay. There's going to be that one person you don't like. But if you truly can nurture someone to bring out the best in them, and they will follow you to the ends of the earth, and they will rally for you because they know you will be there for them and stick up for them when needed and fall on the sword when needed, then that's what being a leader is. And oh, by the way, making sure they get their task done right to meet the business needs. That is what being a leader is about. If that's what you want to do, then go for that leadership position. Continue to lead your people as you are today. If you're sitting here going, I do that today, Nicole, well, then great, fantastic. But if you feel you want to apply for that leadership position or get into that leadership role, go for it. Go for it. Because all they're going to say is no. But I do not want you to now take that on as a rejection. I want you to take it on as in that door just wasn't for you. Now let's go to the next door. And do know when that big door of opportunity opens for you, that door is going to be bigger than you ever imagined. Yeah.
Like it.
And your heart's in it. So you love it. It's not just a matter of whatever that is. Everybody's different. So I have one more question. And I was wondering if you would share with us, without obviously disclosing any information that is personal, but an experience about someone you have coached, someone you have led, somebody that has gone through your program that has really been like super transformative, because that's what we all are looking for, right? Is to become better, that transformation. Give us at least a glimpse of how you have helped other people.
Absolutely. I would say recently, I started coaching an individual back in the summer. I want to say the summer. And it was funny when it was brought to my attention that she wanted, or this person was going to be my coaching program. The organization actually called me and was like, oh, we have an individual that we want to go through your coaching program. Okay, sure. But the way it was given to me was, this person needs help. Like I don't want to say like it was their problem, it's like fix them. It was like they. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And once we started going through, it's very interesting because I do the one-on-one coaching via Zoom. And when she initially got on, I could just see the body language, very stern, very, very smart female, very smart, just in her field. And I don't want to give her title away because it's a different industry, and very smart, very stern. And so I started talking and going through and very engaging. So the first couple of sessions, I always say about session 4, because this one was 10 sessions, and about session 4 is where you have you have that moment of clarity and it just hits you. And I told her that come session 4, boom, it hit. And it was just through questions I was asking and things that she was saying and so forth. And so she was working through. Then where I started seeing the transformation was I always support them between sessions. So they can email me or even call me. She emailed me. I have this situation, and she was just typing and so forth. And where I was so proud of her is where she was literally pausing, because I talk about the power of the pause.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Pausing. And I could just see, I literally could see her mind going in the email. But what made it so beautiful was that she was thinking through everything that we have already talked about, thinking about her emotional intelligence assessment, where she needed opportunity, because her issues were like communication, coming across so very aggressive, that type of thing, matter of fact, and so forth. And through her email, I could see she was thinking about it. And so my first question back was, hey, glad you're doing good. Thanks for emailing me. Good to hear from you. What do you want to do? And she replied back, that's what I was asking you. I'm like, no. What do you, because in your
Gut.
shanana, how you need to respond. And she didn't respond for a little bit. And then she came back and she was like, okay, I think I need to blah, 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 blah. And I said, that's it. I like that perspective. That's fine. So forth. So as she was talking, what I realized, what made this engagement even more powerful was that as she was talking, I realized that it wasn't just her. I realized that she was also too, in basketball where you're playing the players and the ref, you're never going to win. That was type of her situation. So she was also playing leadership, and it was just difficult. And she just kept getting shot down on stuff. And so I went back to the organization. So I think, some other leaders might benefit. I did it very tactical, though, very, very strategic, And yeah, I brought on other clients from the organization, because here's the thing. I can coach her and she's going to do her part. I could see she was doing her part in other exercises, other things that we're doing as the sessions progressed. Once we got to the last session, she was like, oh my God, I need more maintenance. I want maintenance with you. I want monthly. We meet monthly and da-da-da-da. And she was on me. So I could tell that it was going. She told me how she was going to create this cheat sheet for her, and I give supplemental material. So I could see that she was in it. But the thing is that she was the only side that was in it. The other pieces that she was trying to break through were not in it. So that's where I came in and said, maybe we need to bring in the other side as well. And do know what I do not do is go, oh, now that I'm coaching you, I'm going to give examples that your employee gave. No. That's not how it works. I focus on the person and the situations that they're going through. I don't bring in any other players, right? We're not doing that. We don't bring in other players. And so now I'm coaching other leadership, which is showing me now it's traveling, right? And so now when this person and that other person are communicating, they're communicating so beautifully. And I can just see them now, like in their heads, pausing, trying to take note of what we said. And again, it's that slight push and pull, and it's working for them. And so I have to say that's probably one of my biggest successes right now, because I could clearly see that it wasn't just her, that there were other players involved. And if it was only going to be just her, it wasn't going to stick. It wasn't going to stick, because she was basically going to give up and say, forget it. They're still acting like this, so I'm going to act like this too. And so that was, so that's success story that I have. I have some others where people have gained promotions because they used their voice and they applied for positions and so forth. People that, it helped personally as well because they understood their values. They took even some of my lessons to their family and so forth. They wanted me to assess their spouses. That's a funny one. When my clients want me to send the assessment to their spouses or partners, that's where I chuckle. But also too, that's good because they get to know each other even better. So I've had a lot of successes, but I have to say, I've had a couple of clients that I've had to what I call fire my clients because they're not doing the work. So I like to say, if you're not going to do the work, this is not for you, because you will have to do the work. And that's what I can guarantee. It will work if you do the work.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Do you have is there an assessment online that is a way to look at what your leadership style is?
Yes, I do. Thank you for asking. No. On thenicolefsmith.com, on my homepage right there is a leadership style assessment that you can take so you can understand your innate leadership style. We do know we ebb and flow between styles, right? Depending on situations. It is free. You can go out there and take it. Will I email you after I get notification that you took it? Absolutely. Because I just want to check in with you, but there is no cost to it. So you can sign up for my newsletters as well as take the leadership style assessment. You get immediate results right there online. They do not come from me. They come from the actual tool that you take. So the only way you'll hear from me is via an email.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Ah, absolutely.
So you have some other goodies that you're going to share with us.
Go for it. Okay. On my website, as I said, thenicolefsmith.com, you can go to the services tab. When you click the services, you'll see that I do coaching one-on-one. I do group coaching as well. So I work with organizations and individuals. So if an organization calls me and wants one-on-one or group, we can do that as well. I do workshops, a variety of workshops. And I have to say, my workshops are so much fun. We engage, we laugh, we have competitive games. Oh, we get totally involved. I do keynotes if you want me to stand on the big stage and speak to your organization or the event that you may be putting on, conferences, panels, and so forth. I have an EQ impact framework where I do follow my own proven framework to help you along this journey. And with that said, I also do have an assessment that goes along with that, as well as the free leadership style assessment that's on my homepage. And I do have a podcast myself. So it's called Blow Your Mindset, where we talk about a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff. But I always tell people I have dope friends that are on there, and we eventually do become friends. And we talk of many different industries, different things. And we primarily talk about what blows your mind today. Trust me, there's so much to talk about.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I enjoy your podcast.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for joining us
Nicole.
with our audience. And it was just a real pleasure to meet you, like more in real life. This is, as good as it gets sometimes. But thank you so much for joining us, sharing your wisdom and your talents with us, and giving the audience some more perspective on becoming the best they can be.
The best that you can be. And this is where I always say, people ask me, how are they? No, I say, so people ask me, what are you doing today? They go, what are you doing today, Nicole? And I'll say, doing my best. That's all I got today, doing my best. And so as long as you walk away knowing you're doing your best, that's all anyone can ask.
All you can ask. Lovely.
And the best changes every day. I mean, some days the best is different because I don't have the same amount of energy.
Right. And recognize
that's okay.
Ariel, that's a whole nother conversation about recognizing that your energy is everything. You need to preserve it.
That's that self-discovery. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, we could talk all day.
We can go all day. Well, thank you for having me on for both weeks. I appreciate you both. This has been fun. I felt like we were just some girls chatting. So
yeah, exactly.
Fun. I appreciate you.
But very high gray matter girls.
Absolutely. Absolutely. High EQ, high IQ. We got it all taken care of.
That's right. Let's just make the world a better place together, right?
Together.
All right. Thank you.
See you next episode. After all, it is your brand, your story, and your success. Because Ariel and I know you matter in your business.
Thank you for listening to the You Matter in Business podcast. Please follow, share, like, and comment. We would love to hear from you. This podcast is sponsored by Ariel Faith Photography and Enrich Life Coaching. The show notes provide more information on how to contact Ariel and Miriam and any guest speakers who share in our journey together.